Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. Coming up here on today's show, we're going to get into the latest around free agent defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh. On top of that, ESPN's Paul Gutierrez released his 53-man roster projection. I'm going to tell you the 53 players that he ended up keeping. And on top of that, I'm going to give you my analysis and my 2 cents of what I thought about it. So the latest going on around Suh is, well, not much has changed since bright and early on Tuesday when Suh appeared on ESPN on Monday. He said that the Bucs were out of the picture, and he smiled when he was asked about the Raiders. You could kind of see this little bit of a grit to him, and he was like, I've been in conversations with the Raiders. However, nothing has been pushed across yet. I will say there was a report that came out from Vincent Bonsignore in Vegas Nation that said the Raiders aren't interested in Ndamukong, and I'm just up here to tell y'all that that's actually not true. I know from me and another source that I'm very comfortable with said that the Raiders are 100% are interested in Ndamukong. So if you start seeing some conflicting reports, I'm going to take my guys over Vincent and over that team every single day of the week, so please keep that in mind. So in terms of Ndamukong Suh, one of the things that Suh said was he was talking to 2 Raiders players that, to me, I think they have a lot of connections. And he tweeted out on Tuesday, Raiders could be fun. He also posted this on his Instagram, and the fact that he's putting this out there, to me, is 100% proof that the Raiders are talking to him, and he's talking to the Raiders, but he's also talking to the Minnesota Vikings, and I think right now he's trying to get his asking price a little bit up. Not only is he tweeting this stuff out, he said that he's having conversations with Maxx Crosby, having conversations with Chandler Jones, and if those 2 guys are talking to Ndamukong, as far as I'm concerned, let's get it going. So I will say this. If the Raiders sign Ndamukong Suh, I hope y'all are ready to party. I hope you put your drinking pants on. I hope you go grab a 6-pack, maybe get some Fireball as well, and we're going to go live, and it's going to be wild and crazy. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 115,000 subscribers. We're 229 away. If you're a diehard fan, if you bleed silver and black, hit that subscribe button. All right, y'all, so coming up now here on the Raiders Report, that was the latest around Ndamukong. Let's get into Paul Gutierrez's 53-man roster projection, and I'm going to start at the quarterback position. We're going to go through the offense. I'm going to tell you all the quotes that Gutierrez had to say and why he kept certain guys, and then I'll tell you what I think about it, and then we will go to the defensive side of the football. You got to talk about the quarterback position. You got Derek Carr, Nick Mullins, Jarrett Stidham. Also, you can't forget about Chase Garbers. So those are your 4 quarterbacks as it stands right now, and to be honest with you, I was a little bit surprised what Gutierrez went with. He went with Derek Carr, Jarrett Stidham, only 2 quarterbacks, and when you go back and look at some of the past history of New England, I get it. However, I was told by a Raiders player that Nick Mullins is a lot better, clearly better than Jarrett Stidham. Now, maybe because Stidham knows the offense and the trade happened, that's the reason why they go with that route. But here's what Gutierrez had to say. Wait, only 2 quarterbacks? Yeah, for now. McDaniel's old employer in New England was not shy about sticking with only 2 quarterbacks, so this will free up another spot down the roster. Again, for now, Carr is the unquestioned starter, and Stidham knows the offense. Keep an eye, though, on Colin Kaepernick, who worked out for Las Vegas in late June, even though the Raiders also have Nick Mullins and Chase Garbers on the roster after OTAs and minicamp. So Gutierrez has the Raiders keeping 2 quarterbacks. What about y'all? Do you think that the Raiders keep only 2 QBs? Some of you are probably like, just keep 1. It's Derek Carr. Do you think they keep 4? Do you think they keep 3? Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comment section right now, because for me, I see the Raiders keeping 3 quarterbacks, which, yes, that is going to take an extra position away from either the offensive line. Maybe it's in the defense, wherever. I just don't like the idea of the Raiders only going with 2 quarterbacks going forward with this season. So for that reason, I have them keeping 3. Let's now look at the running back room, which is probably more stacked than it's been in quite some time. You know, you got Jacobs, Bolden, Drake, Abdullah, Brown, who the Raiders drafted, Zamir White, who the Raiders drafted, and then fullback Jakob Johnson. From the running back and fullback standpoint, Gutierrez is going to go with 3. And I should also mention the numbers that you see next to the players is me counting out the 53 guys on the roster. That way you can kind of stay up to date with me. This is what Gutierrez had to say on why he went with these 4 backs and this fullback here. Running back by committee, anyone. This is tough to pick because neither of the returners, Jacobs and Drake, practiced during OTAs or minicamp because they are still rehabbing injuries. Bolden knows the offense, which gives him a huge leg up, and White is here as a draft pick. It's tough to leave veteran Ameer Abdullah off given the workload he had this spring, but here we are. In terms of this entire idea, I get it. I do see the Raiders keeping 5 overall players in terms of running backs and fullbacks, though, and I mean this though, a player that I've been told to keep in mind as a serious trade candidate is Kenyan Drake. Let's now look at the wide receiver room, and man, I'll tell you what, every time I see Davante Adams on screen, it makes me a really, really happy dude. And for the first time in a long time, I love the depth that the Silver and Black have at the wide receiver position. Though, Gutierrez is keeping off one of the guys that y'all know that I like a lot, and that's Clelin Cole. He has the Raiders keeping Adams, Renfrow, Robinson, Hollins, and Johnson. And the reason that I believe he keeps Johnson and Hollins is due to their special teams value. For Gutierrez, he says that, have you heard that Adams was Carr's favorite receiver in college at Fresno State? Of course you have. And with Adams being acquired in a blockbuster trade with the Green Bay Packers, one might say Carr has no more excuses remaining, which I 100% agree with. Now, with Adams, the best wideout in the game, and Renfrow, who is the next to uncoverable in the slot, Robinson and Johnson bring speed, and Hollins is a special team standout. I don't disagree with any of the things that he said here. However, if you're going to sit up here and tell me that you're going to keep Johnson, I'm going to have the Raiders keeping 6 wide receivers because, to me, Clelin Cole is a good route runner. He's going to be somebody who earns his stripes with Derek Carr. He's going to earn his stripes with this Raiders offense in general. So to me, I'm going to continue to pound on the table, giggity, that Clelin Cole ends up making the Raiders roster. Now, this is the Raiders Report, so shout out to all y'all. But guess what? I'm a big sports junkie, and I work at Chat Sports, and we're going to be live for the NBA draft. So if you haven't already, go subscribe to Chat Sports. We got over 300,000 subscribers over there, youtube.com/chatsportstv, and we're going to get the picks before you see them on TV. Now, I might not be the guy giving the analysis, but I'm going to be drinking, I'm going to be having a good time, and I want you to join the party. Remember, youtube.com/chatsportstv. It's time now to look at the tight end room, which is Marshall Green's favorite position on the field. You got Darren Waller, Moreau, those are your top 2 guys. And then there's some extra depth pieces here. Hollister, Bowers, Horsted, Fotheringham, who I can never pronounce his name. But anyway, in terms of if you're going to run 2 tight end sets, only keeping 3 tight ends is a little bit of a ballsy move to me. Waller, Moreau, no doubt are your top 2. And then for Gutierrez, he's keeping Bowers, who I see as more of a pass catcher, not so much of a blocker. Waller endured a spring full of trade rumors. This is what Gutierrez had to say. But instead of watching old tape of old Rob Gronkowski, who on Tuesday just announced he retired, running wild as a precursor of what McDaniels envisions, Waller doing in his offense, Moreau is still on the ascent and a favorite of Carr's, while Bowers' blocking ability gets him the nod over new regime free agent signing Jacob Hollister, but barely. Here's the thing. You're going to notice that I'm like, man, I see the Raiders keeping this many players, or I see the Raiders keeping this many players. I've already said that I would add an extra quarterback, I would add an extra wide receiver, and I would add an extra tight end, which means somewhere down the line, I'm going to have to get rid of 3 players, which if I end up doing a 53-man roster projection video, you'll see where they end up being. Let's now look at the offensive line because this is a big one. And I know the route that Gutierrez went with here because of all the talk around the Raiders' offensive line. Unfortunately and fortunately, though, this is going to be a lot of competition, and it's probably going to be the main conversation standpoint of the entire offseason for multiple reasons. Because, you can have an amazing offense, but if you can't block like we saw last season, it doesn't really matter, and this is an old school thought, but football is won in the trenches, and I truly, truly believe that. For Paul, he was like, all right, if we keep 10 offensive linemen, that potentially helps out the Silver and Black get better. The unfortunate part is this. I just don't understand how you're going to sit up here and tell me that they're going to keep 10 offensive linemen. To me, it's a little bit of a rich move to do. I'm not going to keep Alex Bars in my 53-man roster projection. I've been told he's a sleeper. I have the Raiders going with 9 guys. But hey, this is what Paul had to say. This is more about what his thoughts are, and then I'm also chiming in with my 2 cents. Are the Raiders really going to run it back with the same O-line that got Carr sacked 40 times last season? The second most in his 8-year career. Looks that way from a certain point of view. Is Leatherwood going to move back to right tackle? What about Good? who suffered a torn ACL in the season opener. Parham, the first draft pick, of the new regime, could get a long look at either guard spot as well as the backup center. When I look at that offensive line, and I really, really, truly hope that the Raiders do add some extra players, but one guy to not sleep on, who was a clear winner from what I've been told from minicamp and OTAs, Lester Cotton. Please, do not sleep on that name. I'm not saying he's going to make it, but I think he has a better shot than Alex Bars from what I've been told. So what do y'all think here? How many offensive linemen will the Raiders keep? Do you have them keeping 11, 10, 9, 8? Usually the sweet spot for NFL teams, if you're really confident about your offensive line, you keep 8 or 9. If you're a little bit more shaky, you see 10 or 11. My sweet spot number is going to be 9. We went with the offense. It's time now to look at the defensive side of the football. And yes, the Raiders have arguably the best, and I'll sit up here and say the best edge rushing duo in the entire NFL with Maxx Crosby and Chandler Jones. Besides that, though, lots and lots of question marks. So for Gutierrez, he has them keeping 4. Crosby, Jones, no surprise. Clelin Ferrell, and then Malcolm Koonce. You're hoping that these guys can just be, when Crosby and Jones need a breather, these two players come in for 10 snaps a game, pin their ears back, and get after the quarterback. Defensive end was not really the position I was all that curious about. It was defensive tackle, because in Patrick Graham's system, you're going to see a lot of moving parts, especially at the DT room. And from what I've seen, from what Gutierrez has put together here, not that this is the one I disagree with the most, but there is going to be some shifting in this, because I'm a believer that the Raiders added their defensive tackle room. I like Hankins. I have Butler, Nichols, Farrell. Vernon Butler, to me, is still a little bit of a coin flip. Kyle Peko, even though he retweeted me when I made a video about him, I just don't understand that there's a scenario that Kyle Peko ends up making this 53-man roster unless there is something that I don't know, which I would say out of all the positions amongst the Raiders right now, I'm probably the most plugged into the DT room. But this is what Gutierrez had to say, a 4-3 defense or a 3-4 under new defensive coordinator Patrick Graham. Either way, the Raiders already have a formidable pass rush duo in Crosby and Jones and need a lot of interior help to not only defend the run, but push the pocket. No wonder Las Vegas drafted defensive tackles with consecutive picks in Farrell Jr. and Matthew Butler, while signing Nichols, Peko, and Vernon Butler in free agency. Might Farrell, the number 4 overall pick of the 2019 draft, be a better fit as a 3-4M? That still remains to be seen. So again, I don't see Peko making the roster, and he might have made the roster last year, though the DTs were probably a little bit deeper. I will say this, do not sleep on Tyler Lancaster. He's a big body. He was brought in for a reason, and obviously so is Peko. But when I look at the upsides of guys like Hankins, the upsides of Nichols, sometimes you need a safe floor player. And to me, Lancaster can be that safe floor player. It's time now to go to the linebacker room. And remember, y'all, you're watching the Raiders Report. We are breaking down the latest Suh news, but also Paul Gutierrez's 53-man roster projection. Here's the linebackers, and linebackers probably the most difficult graphic I have because of all the moving parts from top to bottom. But Gutierrez has the Raiders keeping 6 linebackers, which is a lot, if I'm being honest with you. Yes, I like Divine Diablo, Denzel Perryman. Those 2 are locks. Jayon Brown, he's a lock. Kyler Fackrell, to me, is a lock. What it really comes down to is Kizer and Young. Gutierrez says, talk about a rebuilt unit. Only Perryman and Diablo returned from last season, while Fackrell knows Graham's scheme, and Kizer, Brown, and Young have all been in the league since at least 2018. So for me personally, I see the Raiders keeping 5 linebackers because the way Graham's system works, if you run a 4-2-5, if you decide to run a 3-4, you're going to be able to use a guy like Chandler Jones, a guy like Clelin Ferrell, a guy like Malcolm Koonce as a stand-up linebacker at one point. So to keep 6 of them, I don't think makes a lot of sense. I believe that the final spot's going to be between Kizer and Young, and whatever player can be the better special teams guy, I think ends up making that final spot. So this is a 53-man roster projection breakdown video and reaction. If you want me to make my own 53-man roster video, all I want you to do, type 53 right now, and if I get enough 53s, I'll send this video over to my bosses and say, see, told you, they don't want me to make this video. So if you want to see it, please type 53 because I want to make the video. Let's look at the quarterback room now, y'all. This has been another position where we've been having multiple discussions because Trayvon Mullen's banged up. Nate Hodges is a stud. Raiders traded for Rocky Sin. But, what about Anthony Averett, Amik Robertson, Phillips? A lot of potential here. ESPN's going to go with 5, and I'm not really surprised by the 5 whatsoever. If you were to tell me, Mitch, bet your life on the 5 cornerbacks that make the roster, this is the 5 that I end up going with. It shouldn't really surprise too many people out there. For Gutierrez, he's like, all right, Mullen has been a starter since his rookie season of 2019, but injuries limited him to 5 games last season. So he has something to prove to the new regime, especially with Averett having started 14 games for the Baltimore Ravens last year. Yasin was acquired in a trade with the Indianapolis Colts for edge rusher Yannick Ngakoue, and Hobbs was a rookie revelation in the slot. Phillips fits in as a return man. I'll say this, even though I agree with that group of 5, I'm going to be cheering for Amik. I was told that Amik was a big-time winner from OTAs and minicamp. The coaches like his versatility. The issue is, and it's a good issue to have, the Raiders are more talented this year, but I'm still absolutely going to be rooting for Amik Robertson in the offseason and preseason, and I would love for him to be able to get a chance. The issue is, I don't know if it's going to happen. Let's go to the safety room now. You got Abram, Merrick, a lot of depth here, which I like. Gillespie, Roderick Teamer, Harmon, and then Dalen Levitt. The Raiders re-signed Roderick Teamer. They re-signed Dalen Levitt. They went out and signed Harmon. However, you're only going to see 4 safeties on the roster, and I think this speaks volumes to the confidence that they have and the 4 players that you see on screen. Merrick's going to play every snap. Deron Harmon and Abram, these 2 are going to combine to be a very good dynamic duo at the safety position. What it really comes down to is, do you keep Tyree Gillespie or do you keep Roderick Teamer? Do you keep somebody else, even like a Dalen Levitt? Gutierrez had this to say. A fluid position, to be sure, with Abram, whose pass defense skills need improvement, getting a lot of work this spring, lining up deep across from Merrick in 2 high safety alignment. Harmon is entering his 10th season and started 17 games for the Atlanta Falcons last season, while Gillespie, a 4th-round pick who was limited to 11 games as a rookie last year, gets the call over Dalen Levitt by a whisker. So to me, Levitt and Teamer are solid special teams players, which I know that this new Raiders regime that they brought in really likes, and yes, most teams like that, but if those players can prove that they can improve on defense, they might get the nod over somebody like Gillespie. So here's the special teams unit, and Renfrow's already on, Johnson's already on. I just figured I would show you this because, guess what, kickers, they matter too, and shit, Daniel Carlson, he won the Raiders 5 games last season. But to round out our 53-man roster projection for special teams, it's A.J. Cole, it's Daniel Carlson, and it's Trent Sieg. So what do you think here? After seeing Paul Gutierrez's 53-man roster, grade it. A, B, C, D, or F. A, you absolutely loved it. B, it was good. C, it was average. D, it was bad. F, it's a fail. I'm going to give it a B grade. I disagreed with it a little bit, but overall, if the Raiders went with this roster, I can make the argument for it. I like it from top to bottom. This roster has a lot of talent, and I'm excited to see what happens going forward. And these videos where you do these types of roster breakdowns, I'm telling you what right now, it makes me excited for the simple fact of this Raiders team is going to be a lot better this upcoming season.